Welcome to the Conway Basketball 2025 Conference Preview. I'm one of your hosts, Levi Gilbert, alongside Tim Roach. And joining us now, new Wampus Cat head coach, Ben Lindsay. And Coach, you bring a championship pedigree here to Conway, and your time at Magnolia, 2 state championships, did a lot of other awesome things too, undefeated seasons. You had I think a 54-game win streak at one point. A lot of things that you did in your time there, and just a really impressive resume. Tell us about your history, your coaching history, all of that, and how it's led to being here.
So my grandfather was quarterback and second baseman at Arkansas and got drafted by the Green Bay Packers and the Boston Red Sox. And he's turned into double play and, long story short, slid into his leg trying to break it up and shattered both his bones in his leg. They put in a steel plate. He couldn't do any fancy surgeries back then, so he's walking with a cane. So he moves to Magnolia, Arkansas to coach football. And he meets a young lady there, gets married, who ends up being my grandmother. So my grandfather coached football at Magnolia, and then my dad was the athletic director and basketball coach at Magnolia. And that's kind of, for the most part, minus a fleeting part of my life where I thought I was going to go to law school. Most of my life, I thought I was either going to play basketball or coach basketball. And so after I got done in college, played at SAU and actually graduated from here in UCA. When I got done with that, I went and was a GA at Alabama Birmingham for a year. And then my boss, Mike Anderson, got hired at the University of Missouri. And so he took me with him, and then I coached at the University of Missouri for 5 years. Yeah, that's right. I'm getting old. It all runs together. And then I've come back to high school since then. College life, I can imagine now with the NIL and transfer portal, like it gave me anxiety doing it then. I can't imagine what these guys feel now. It's bad. So I knew that I wasn't married, didn't have kids, and I knew that one day I would want to do that, and I just didn't like the lifestyle. Some things were great about it. I mean, the parts you see on TV is unbelievable. It's the other things you don't see. And I just didn't feel, for me, that would be right. I wouldn't feel comfortable with wife and kids in that environment. And so we came back. I came back, and I met my wife coaching high school, and we got married. And like I said, I went back home to Magnolia the last 5 years, and I had no intention of ever leaving. When I went back, I thought that would be it. But God said otherwise. And so that's now led us to here. And I've been very, very fortunate. You were talking about those 5 years at Magnolia. I mean, I coached NBA kids in college. I've been very lucky. Been very blessed when it comes to coaching. I've had some good players at Magnolia. Our record was something like 127-6 or somewhere along those lines. I know it's 6 losses. The wins is
you remember those
120s, 130s, something like that. But it was 6 losses. And at one point we had a 54-game winning streak, and had we not missed 15 free throws in a game, that group would have held it together. It was somewhere around 90. It would have been like 92 or 93 wins in a row if it hadn't been for that. But yeah, you can say what you want to about good players. You can say if you think somebody has had a good coach at some point that helped with any of that, that's for somebody else to say. But there's a lot of luck that goes in that too. We were very, very fortunate. I had good players, and we had some good luck on our side.
So now you're Conway. Right. What drew you to Conway? What was the big draw here?
When I graduated from UCA, I loved my time in Conway. Coach Bates and Coach Longing I did my student teaching here with them. I was with Coach Boucher in the classroom, and then Coach Bates and Coach Longing with basketball. I enjoyed it. I've never been a big Northwest Arkansas guy for whatever reason. Being from Southwest Arkansas, everybody looks at South Arkansas as like a different part of the state, and I also think a lot of people look at Northwest Arkansas as, is different. And and nothing against Northwest Arkansas. I've just never really thought of that as wanting to be my home. I enjoy visiting. I enjoy going to Fayetteville and seeing stuff, but Conway always felt more like home. My sister spent a lot of time here. She went to school here, and then she went to med school, and she's a doctor now. She doesn't live here anymore. We're trying to get her back, but Conway's kind of has been a little bit of my home at one point, and I just feel like this is a great place to raise a family, good school district. I've got my daughter just turned 8 yesterday, and my son is 5, and we were talking off air a while ago, me and Levi were, about how that was the big thing for us moving here, my family. What is right for all of us? And it's not just what's right for Ben. Where can Ben win? No, where can our family flourish? And that was the biggest thing. That's what I try to tell our basketball players all the time, that one day that ball's gonna quit bouncing for everybody. And you're gonna have to do something else besides play basketball. Well, my family's gotta do something else besides win basketball games. And that's why we thought Conway was the place we wanted to be.
Well, we're glad to have you here.
Well, we're glad to be here.
Anytime there's a coaching change and new coach coming in, lots of changes in just philosophy. And I'm just curious to hear, what is your approach to the game and your philosophies offensively, defensively? What kind of brand of basketball are you hoping to develop here at Conway, and what kind of players are you hoping to develop?
It's funny, when you said that, so been in a couple of interviews where they say, what's your coaching philosophy? And you're like, I mean, what do you, I want to win as many games as possible. Like, but the way you rephrase some of that, I would say, first off, I'm kind of like a chameleon, I think, in that, in football, if you run the flex bone in high school, you're probably going to run the flex bone in 9th grade and 8th grade and 7th grade. You're going to have those kids learning that system all the way up. I'm one of those that will change. I'll change during the year if I have to, but we will change year to year based on personnel. If all of a sudden we walk out with a bunch of 6'7s and 6'6s that can play, we're probably going to get in the 1-3-1 and make you pick a side of the floor to come down and try not to ever let you get it on the other side. Those first 3 years at Magnolia, we sat back and played half-court man-to-man defense, played a little bit of 3-2 when we needed it, and because we could score, and I needed to keep people out of foul trouble, so we didn't come out too far past the three-point line. We get 28-foot mark-ish, and we guard. Well, the last 2 years, I only played one guy over 6 foot. And so when you got off the bus, we would pick you up and start trapping you in the parking lot for 32 minutes. So, man, the biggest thing for me, when we're good, I want to make, when I've had spend enough time, like at Magnolia, my philosophy was, because I'd spend enough time with those kids, that I want to take me and that other coach out of it as much as possible. I want them to be as prepared as possible before the game starts, and I want there to be as many decisions made during that game as possible, because every decision counts the same. And that's what it's hard to get kids to understand. With 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first quarter, that possession matters as much as the one does with 3 seconds left in the game. And it's hard to get people to lock in on every single decision and situation throughout the game. And I'm big on every possession is like the last possession of the game. And if we can force 200 decisions in a game, if we've practiced that way, if we get 170 of them or 140 of them, I feel like that's going to really go to our advantage. And like I said, when we've had enough time, I'm big on set plays and out of bounds plays on the other team does not score and we do. Like we try to go over everything they're going to do, and we try to make sure, because somebody's going to impose their will on the other. And try when in those situations, I want us to impose our will on them.
Coach, you talked a little bit briefly about how in football you begin to start setting the stage for what you're going to play, what offensive style, what defensive style you're going to play in the next level. Have you had a chance to take a look at the pipeline that you have from like 7th grade, junior high levels? What do you think?
I would think the style of play there right now, I mean, of course, kids can change a lot. At that level, at that age, they grow a lot. And some kids are big at that age that aren't going to be big when they get up here. So it's a guessing game, but my best guess by looking down there would be very similar to how we finished at Magnolia. I think we're going to have the kids that can pressure people on defense, it looks like, coming up, and that we can create a lot in transition, offensively and defensively. Everybody says they want to play fast. I mean, you can put highlights of every college basketball coach that gets hired, every press conference. Well, we're going to play a fast, exciting, up and down brand of basketball. Like, well, I think with these kids, that's what we're going to have to do. I think that's what's going to be advantageous to them. Walking it down and running a set every single time down the floor may not be what's best for them.
You come in, obviously, fresh perspective on all these kids, and there's been, a lot of changes from last season to this season in terms of personnel. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the guys that have been earning that starting time and what some of these primary contributors have been looking like for you?
Yeah, it is. This is the first time I've ever gone through, like, my football players coming in so late.
Yeah.
In the season, anybody that's upset about our schedule, I didn't make that schedule. We're 11 games in and we've played one home game. I've never had to start a season this early, and that's partly why you're football players. And so being new, I saw the football players this summer, but practicing this summer versus December is way different. And so you start with that one group, now all of a sudden you interject 5 more guys in there. It's like starting all over again. And like all our sets and what we're gonna do, this summer I'm still trying to learn them and figure out what they can and can't do. And then there's stuff that you think is gonna be great, then you get in a game and it's not. So you gotta back up and punt. So it's been we're still fighting through that. And of course, the kids that transferred before I got the job, and then we had one not come out that started last year. So technically, out of what possibly could have been the starting 5 when Kennard rolled his ankle this last week at Rogers, we played against Harrison with potentially what could have been 0 starters between injuries and transfers. We played Harrison with what possibly could have been 5 kids that would not have started. Yeah. Not saying they wouldn't have, but over kids that started last year or that
right.
Who knows? So, so far, mainstays in the lineup have been obviously Kennard Turner. I haven't looked, him getting hurt those last 2 games might have thrown off his numbers a little bit, but while he was healthy and playing, he was leading us in points, rebounds, and assists. And I think steals maybe. Every major statistical category he was leading us in. He's been a mainstay. Jay Sullivan has been a mainstay. He had a big game against Harrison. I think he had 27. He shot it well this summer, and then he went through a little bit. All shooters do. Steph goes through it. He went through a little bit of a cold streak here for a while, and now it's come back around, and he's shooting it well again. So that's been a very bright spot for us to see. Jamal Holden has started so far. He's done well. Jamal, we talked a little bit off air a while ago. Jamal's got some hype with him, and people need to keep in mind that there's a difference between what you can be and what you will be, hopefully, one day versus what you are now. A kid that's grown that much and is long and gangly and still trying to figure it out. He's got a lot of things he's still learning. And I'm afraid people are going to put too high expectations on him early on. I'm worried about that. Eli Colum has come in and given a bunch of good minutes. I started Eli the last game against Harrison. So we're very young. I started 4 sophomores against Harrison. We're young. KJ Johnson has started, I think, every game for us, another sophomore. I talked to KJ. He's a kid that, if you ask me what he's great at, and he's the same way, we've sat down and talked about what's he great at. I don't really know. But what's he bad at? He can do just about everything. He's kind of a jack of all trades. And, man, everybody needs somebody like that. And hopefully, at things, he's young, he's 15 years old. He'll get better at other things, obviously. He's just a sophomore. But it's nice to have a guy that he can handle the ball some. He can defend. He can pass. He can set screens. He's physical. He can do a little bit of everything. And that's been nice. This season would have gone a lot differently so far if Xavion Smiley hadn't torn his ACL this summer. Out of the 11 games right now, I think we're 5-6, and 4 of those losses have been a one-possession game with 30 seconds left. I would like to think Smiley would have been made more of a difference than that. And the other loss to Nixa, we were ahead when Kennard got hurt, and then things kind of went south after that. But Harbor, they wasn't much going to change on that one. They they had their way with us. We weren't ready for that one.
They're really good.
They are. I knew that during the JV game, during halftime, when I saw 6 different kids in a row windmill it, I was like, yeah, it's going to be tough. Well, I mean, they got 2 high major players on their team. I mean, that's tough. They were bigger than us. They were more athletic than us, and they got kids that have already signed with high majors. I mean, it's tough.
Coach, what's been some of the challenges that you've seen with this squad as you've gone through your non-conference schedule?
Man, so we talked about, new. Anytime there's change, I mean, change can be good, bad, whatever, but regardless, it's different. It's why it's called change. And like Kennard, he's had 3 coaches in 4 years, I believe. That's tough. I mean, I'm sure we all want something a little bit different. And well, I tell you what, I can't imagine from their point of view what's been tough. But for me, what's been tough is when you get, everybody uses the word culture. They use it generally when they're referring to there's been negative culture before. Like, I don't know about any of that. It's just that your culture, the way you do things is right, wrong, or indifferent. It's the way you do them and what you expect. And so what I'm used to is I've got a group of kids that know exactly what I expect and how we do things, and you just have a small group that comes in every year to get in line with them. It takes a few months to get them ironed out, but you've got me and all those other kids that are policing them. Now, now I'm starting with 24 kids who don't know me, don't know how we do things, and I'm trying to train them all as well as me learn things about this place and about them. That's been the most challenging thing. Everybody wants leadership. Well, leadership is still trying to learn what's expected of them. And we're just now kind of getting to that point to where some leadership is emerging. I mean, you could say, well, Kennard's played for 4 years, yada, yada, yada. Okay, that's fine. He's played for several different guys. He doesn't necessarily know what all I expect. In this situation, what I expect out of this, how I'm going to react to that. He started to figure that out a little bit now. And that's not a knock. He shouldn't have. That takes time. You have to establish that. If culture, relationships, leadership were that easy, people wouldn't talk about it. It'd be a non-factor.
All right, second season, conference play, just around the corner. After this break, we'll break it down with Coach Ben Lindsay.
We don't schedule the appointments, but we connect them. We don't read the x-rays, but we stream them. We don't handle the procedures, but we power them. Here's to running the things that make business run smoothly. Conway Corp. Always on.
Welcome back to the Conway Basketball 2025 Conference Preview Show. I'm Levi. He's Tim, here with Coach Ben Lindsay, new Wampus Cat head coach. And you come to Conway by way of Magnolia, as you mentioned, and you had a ton of success in the 4A classification. You get a chance now to compete at the highest classification in the state in the 6A. And again, fresh perspective, right? It's all new to you. What's been your take so far? I know you've played a few 6A teams in non-conference, but as you head into the conference schedule, what's your take on the 6A?
So our schedule has been, it's been brutal. We've played a lot of people. And, Arkansas has, basketball-wise, we're fortunate. We have good coaches, good players at all levels. I mean, good basketball is good basketball. What you see when you move up in levels is, you may have the best player in the state at a 1A school, but you may not have the firepower to go alongside that kid. Generally, and there are one-offs everywhere. I felt like at Magnolia, some of our teams could have competed with anybody. We did. But year in and year out, usually the higher you go in classification, the more collective talent is going to be on the floor at the same time. Your weak links, so to speak, aren't quite as weak as when you drop down. Now, and that's not an insult. I don't mean that towards a smaller school. There are small schools that when they're good, they can beat anybody as well generally. But we're talking about bell curve earlier. The masses, the mean is that the higher you go in classification, the better talent, collective talent is going to be on the floor. And so we were talking, Salty, Coach Longy and I were talking about it one day. I think our conference right now has something around 5 or 6 current NBA players right now. And that's a lot for the little bitty state.
Yeah.
So the conference, you look and you don't ever, I'm one of those, you ask me how Coach, how are y'all going to do? Like, I just hope, Magnolia, those years I knew we were going to be pretty decent, I'd just say, we're just going to try to win a game. If we win one, whenever we win one, we'll try to win another one. We'd won all those games in a row, and somebody would ask me, like, well, I don't know if we can win the next one, but we're going to try. That's how I was raised, and that's kind of how I talk. And you look in the conference, even if in your mind, if you don't want to say it out loud, you like to try to look at some of those games and think, well, we can beat them. We should beat them. We should. And I look at our schedule, I'm like, I hope. It's rough. It's every night. If there's somebody you think you got a pretty good chance on, it makes it even worse. Like you want to, because if I don't win this one, I know what's coming. That's tough. It can be tough mentally on kids, coaches, parents, everybody. It's a battle, but it's going to be the same battle for everybody. Everybody plays the same schedule, so we all go through it. It will be a grueling little gauntlet there to go through. I'm afraid.
Well, you lead into my next question, which is, so that is a grind. You got Jones, you got to play Jonesboro, you got to play North Little Rock, you got week in, week out. Given how you used to prepare at Magnolia and the gauntlet that you faced there and the difference that is now, what's that grind going to be like for your guys week in and week out? Does that change your approach to practice?
Not in theory, maybe not so much. No, because you're going to have the same Tuesday, Friday setup. Like I have a process of leading up to a game, my idea of practice, what we do 2 days out, what we do 1 day out. That, all things considered, injuries, sickness, all that out of play, it will be relatively the same. It's just, we don't, looking at our schedule, we don't have an off day, like from the day we started as far as a game. You don't have a game to where you're like, well, we can work on this in that game, or we can rest some of these guys, or, it doesn't work that way. And at Magnolia, no matter who it was, no matter what our record was, no matter what we did the time before when we played them, we prepared like that was the state championship game. Once you get into the game, if things start going your way, then you adjust accordingly. And that's how I've always done it. That's how I will do it here. That's a fair question you asked, but as far as that, my plan is to do everything. We have kind of a routine that we do, and I plan to try to stick to that.
One interesting challenge in the 6A Central in particular is it's a 7-league team. It's kind of a weird thing. So you do, once you get into conference play, you do have more off nights than most schools will have in their conference play. How do you approach kind of that unique schedule?
So we were going to have, I believe, that if I remember correctly, that same situation this year at Magnolia. They did, the whole state, they did a reconfiguring of conferences last spring. And I was thinking about that, and I was looking at it. It allows you to Under normal circumstances, I kind of cycle through sets as the year goes along. Like there's stuff that we've already started this year that I took off the table. I'm like, that looks good in practice, but we don't run it. It doesn't work for us well in the game by the way they guard us. So you'll do stuff right now, and by the time you get around to conference, well, if people scout you and get all your film, they know, okay, they run this, they do that. Well, I like to start somewhat cycling through stuff. Well, that will give you a time, those breaks, not only for healing physical injuries or just giving guys a little bit of a rest, you can also hopefully install and flip some stuff that people haven't seen. And that's what I've done going into state tournaments, or then when there's the week for the finals, I always like to throw in a few things people haven't seen yet. And so that's a good time to do those. It's a good time to let guys you talked about that grind, and it's not just physical, it's mental. And that's a time to where for at least a couple days, maybe they can not be on that competitive edge and can kind of regroup a little bit.
Coach, you've talked about, in the last segment, we talked about all the different players you've had coming through, and you've had to go through some different things, injuries, maybe even sickness, but also getting to know your players. Are there a few names that you would say, these are the guys I know I'm going to be leaning on as I get into conference play, the guys you're really counting on?
I mean, the one, we need Kennard Turner bad. He does some things that it's hard for other people. We don't have other people, especially with Smiley getting hurt. Smiley could fill that. Xavion Smiley could fill that role fairly decently. It's kind of like if we had 3 7-footers and one of them went down, okay, well, we got 2 somewhat like him. We don't have really anything else like Kennard right now. That's what hurts. Like Jamal and what he can do, what he's capable of is good. Having Eli now in here helps that. We've got a couple other, Cam Williams will help us in that role. He doesn't have the size and length that those 2 have, but he can fill a different kind of void. The 3, that side, I don't want to lose any of those guys. If you lose Eli, if he rolls his ankle, you've got Jamal, you've got Cam. Where we can't really replace a whole lot right now is defensive pressure and ball handling. Zay Patrick, a sophomore, I've been starting him. KJ Johnson and Kennard. Those 3, KJ has really come on in the last week with his defensive on the ball pressure, but Zay and Kennard can really guard well for where we're at right now, and we really need that. And we start losing those guys, it changes things for us.
As we talk, you're about to the halfway point, about to close out non-conference schedule. What stands out to you as unique about this team? I know there's everything that comes along with coming to a new program and starting that.
What's unique about them to me, I've been very, very blessed with good kids at Magnolia. Darian Ford went to Arkansas and is at Arkansas State now. Might be the best kid I've ever been around in my life. Not basketball player, best kid I've ever been around. I had some great kids on those teams. Here, out of 24 kids on the team, which I'd never say a name even if I had one, but I can't think of a kid that I worry about getting an email from a teacher or a principal. I have 24 really, really good kids. And people say, I've got good kids, my kids work hard, everybody gives you that stuff. When we go to restaurants, all the trash gets picked up. They say, yes, sir. They say, no, sir. No, sir. They get their stuff. That's been the most unique thing, is trying to get them, when you cross that line out there on the floor, once you step onto that floor, it's okay to be a little different. And I brought up Darian, perfect example. Like I said, the best kid in the world. But when he stepped on that floor, everything changed. But it didn't have to change he didn't run his mouth. He didn't get in people's face. He didn't do any of that. He was just like a machine. That's been the biggest thing to try to get kids to want to do. It's okay to be, that's like I'm a husband and a father when I step across that line. And now, granted, do I still discipline my kids and get on my kids? Yes, but 95% of the time, I'm the loving, want to wrestle, want to play Uno, want to do those things. Okay, but when we step across that line, you have to change a little bit, and it becomes a competition. And that's where we're at, trying to amp up crossing that line, because they've got this side of it down. I'm blessed with good kids these are kids you want to go hang out with. You enjoy taking them places because they represent you well. They represent your program and the city of Conway very well. They've been raised well. They've been taught well. That's been, you never know when you roll into a new place what you're going to get. Like how the kid, what kind of attitude do the kids have? What's their demeanor? As far as that, they're unbelievable.
Coach, you talked previously about a catchphrase called culture. So I want to ask you, in terms of, for folks that have never seen Magnolia play, where you came from, what would you say, what would you describe a Coach Lindsey team, what do they look like? When they come out to watch your guys, what are they going to see?
The most important thing, or probably to me, are the things you don't see. I can't remember the commercial. I used to talk about it all the time. There's a commercial that used to say, we don't make, it go through all these home products. And he goes, we don't make a lot of the home products you buy. We make the home products you buy better. Okay, well, a lot of that stuff you don't see. It's you're going to be at practice on time every time. If not, there are consequences. We run for bad grades, not at report cards, at progress reports. If I get an email from a teacher or a principal, it is dealt with. The school can't always punish you for certain things or discipline you for certain things, but I can. That's what I tell them. Like out there in town, what you do out in town affects what happens here. If your parents have a problem and they come to me, we'll deal with that too. It's the details every single day that lead up to the finished product. I hate to be cliche, and how you do anything is how you do everything. I know that's not 100% realistic, but we need to be as close to that as possible. And I think what you see, if you were to see our Magnolia teams, you see the kind of culmination of that in the decision making, and how something that seems insignificant, when you look back on it, a decision that was made, or how hard we turned it over, and it's a kid's got a wide open layup, or it's a 2-on-1, should be an easy bucket for the other team, but my other kids are sprinting back because there's the small chance that they miss it. And if they do, we don't want to give them a chance to put it back in. Whereas most people, they'll go let them lay it in, then we'll take it out and we'll come back. I'm big on what if. And I'm too big of a what if guy in my personal life and in my coaching life, but there are good things that come from that. What if he misses it? So the discipline I'm not big on if you hit a three, I can't stand the three goggles, the bow and arrow, all that stuff, because I always ask kids, well, how come when you're at the free throw line, you make a free throw? How come you don't turn around and do this? So you dunk one, you celebrate with your team. You hit a three, you turn around, you holler at your bench, you high five the guy beside you. You don't have anything to say to the other team. Scoreboard does the talking. I'm big on that kind of stuff. It's like I felt like our teams in the past, we didn't need to draw any more attention to yourselves. Your play and your winning takes care of that. And if it's not doing that, then you don't want that attention. Go get it the right way.
It's Conway head coach Ben Lindsay, and his Wampus Cats open conference play January 7th here at home against Little Rock Southwest. We'll have that live here on Conway Court. After the break, we'll talk with head coach Ashley Hutchcraft and break down these Lady Cats.
You don't wake up thinking about internet speed, electricity, reliability. Your mind isn't on advanced treatment facilities or customizable systems. you don't have to think about any of these things. Because we do. Conway Corp. Always on.
Welcome back to the Conway Basketball 2025 Conference Preview. I'm one of your hosts, Levi Gilbert. He's Tim Roach, and joining us now, the head lady cat herself, Ashley Hutchcraft. And Coach, your team made it back to the championship game last season, 2 seasons in a row now. Came up a little short, but you got most of that roster back.
Sure.
Have had one big loss to injury, but all things considered, expectations just as high as ever here in Conway.
Yeah, we always kind of have that expectation, and this is just another year where that we have a chance if we stay healthy from this point forward, that we have a chance to make a run at another championship. But of course, there's a lot of things that got to come into play. Basketball is a very long season, so. But at this point, we have a shot, and there are some years where you don't have a shot. So it's nice to have that competitive drive and that chance.
Coach, so you enter in your 14th season as coach here, and so what is your take on the state of the program as you kind of head into this second decade of your tenure here?
Well, I have to say it's pretty good because I'm over it, right? No, I think we're in a really good spot. Through the years, we've had some great players, but we've been able to, because of those players, we've been able to put I feel like our program on a national level. When you are successful, everyone kind of expects it, but that's not easy to do. 2 years ago when we won the state championship, it really was kind of looked over the fact that we were 16th team in the country. That doesn't happen. We don't hear that. I'm not sure it will happen again. But just us being able to play the games that we play and travel the way that we travel and, being willing to do that. Not everybody's willing to go. And so, I'm very pleased with it, with how things are going. And I do think, with this, me being here this long, things are just continually getting better. There are things that are getting better. And that's my goal as the head coach, is to not be stagnant, to always be kind of pushing the limit and doing things different and trying to improve the program. And that is just a constant thing my brain goes through, is how to make this better. And at this point, it's a challenge, but I think as long as I have that mindset, then I need to be the head coach. And when I stop having that mindset, I need to go somewhere else. So, at this point, I think we're doing pretty good.
All right, let's talk about this year's Lady Cats, and let's start with senior Emery Bohannon.
Yeah.
She's been the spark of the team for several years now. Recently passed 200 three-pointers made. What have you noticed that's different about her this season, or how she continued to develop her game heading into her 4th year?
Yeah, it's funny to look, when we do those statistics, and I always break them down with Emery, like 9th grade year, 10th grade year, 11th grade year, and even in her points and her three-pointers, they just double every year, and that's hard to do. A lot of players, they don't do that. They have a good shooting year, and then the next year it's just about the same, maybe less, maybe a little bit more, but she's genuinely doubling her statistics every single year. And I think, when Emery started with us as a 9th grader, she was just a shooter. And now she can score anywhere. She's developed her mid-range shot. She is so physically dominant to the rim, defensively. And then, the stat you're not going to see on paper is just the character she has, the work ethic she has in the weight room, on the court, in the locker room. It's a responsibility that is difficult, but our season, our mentality rides on Emery Bohannon. And last year when she figured that out, we were able to get to the state championship after losing players like Chloe and Savannah and Camille and Caden. We lost 95% of our scoring, and Emery stepping into that role when she was like, okay, I get it. we got really good.
So Samaya Jordan is somebody that's always impressed me. And last year during the playoffs, she had moments where she took over a ball game, and she's that kind of player. What can you expect from her this year?
Man, I think Samaya is probably one of the most overlooked players in the state. I mean, she is just, as far as recruiting goes, she's a big-time player. I mean, she does. She has the ability, and she's proven time and time again, even this year, that she just takes over right when we need it. And drives me crazy a little bit because she could do that all game long. And so we've really been trying to, Samaya, you got to start early. You got to have those big moments early in the game. Don't wait till we absolutely need it. And she's been doing better at that. She is our floor general. She controls the game with the ball in her hand. But with losing Lex to injury, she's having to take on more of a scoring role. And so I think she's doing great with it. So, she's another high character kid, hardworking. Her and Emory, they're the leaders of our team.
Another senior, maybe the most improved Lady Cat this year, Olivia Cox. She goes from being first off the bench a year ago to a bona fide starter this year for your team.
Yeah, last year we lost Trinaya Weston in the second round of conference play, and so Olivia had to start the rest of the year. And so her role really changed about midway last year, and so she hasn't lost that starting spot since. She's, Liv's going to do the dirty work. She's kind of that rebounder, grit player. Her and Emory both have around. I think they've both gotten about 9-10 charges each. They're amazing at it. I want to say Liv got 4 in one game. She just does the little things that, again, not a lot of people see, but she has experience. She has a little bit of size that obviously we're missing, and she's gritty. So, we love her.
So a couple of sophomores this year, but played as freshmen, Trinaya and Mariah. Their games last year really came on, and you mentioned Trinaya had an injury that she had to go through, but their games continue to develop throughout the year. What's their take this year?
Trinaya could be, if she wanted to be, the best player on the floor. She is she is an unbelievable basketball player. She knows the game. Her IQ is amazing. And that's one thing that we've really been trying to do is, Trinaya is more of a point guard. And that's allowing Samaya not to have so much of that role, and Samaya can be more of a combo guard, and I think that's been successful for us this year. But T leads us in steals, she leads us in transition points. She leads us in assists. She leads us in a lot of those categories. And so when we lost her last year, a lot of people, she was our starter, and we had to adjust our team for the second half of the season. Her first game back was the state championship game. We didn't play well, but she was the best player on the floor for us that night. She's fearless, and she has that dog in her. So, and she's gotten a lot stronger from last year to this year. And so, again, she's just another one of those players that, we're really, really excited about.
One new face, sophomore transfer Libby Counts, brings some size to your team. How's she fitting in?
She's continually getting better. We played Forest City last week at Forest City, and it was a great game. We had some big moments where Liv is actually going through a little bit of an ankle injury, so we set her that game. Mariah Wilson came in and started for her and did amazing. Mariah is going to be, and we call her Rye, she's another big-time sophomore for us. Got some length to her, can score, can shoot it. And then Libby was able to come in against Forest City, and she gave us a couple big baskets. Hers is just a transition from a small school to a big school where it's a lot more physical, the play's a lot faster. But when we look at her, when we got her till now, it's amazing, just the transformation. So, I think Libby's going to continually getting more and more minutes as the season progresses, and she's working hard and she gets it. She's very, realistic in the fact that she said, Coach, I thought I was doing something and I was doing nothing till I got here. So, again, I think we're going to see the fruits of her labor in the next couple of years, but I think we're going to need Libby's size. She's 6'1". She's a big body. She has great hands. And I think we're going to see her and we're going to need her towards the end of the year.
Coach, being the best program in the state, and I can say that without even smiling, I mean, it's the best program in the state. It's amazing to me that you got freshmen that can come in and make an impact. So talk about Kylie Johnson now that she's pretty excited about her.
Yeah, absolutely. Kylie she's a unique kid. She's very quiet. She sometimes don't know what she's thinking. We're kind of going through that, trying to figure her out and figure each other out. But, she is, goodness, she's going to be amazing. She is just a big guard. She's so strong. She can get to the rim very well. With losing Lex and her coming in, that really helped us a lot in our guard play and also scoring. She has her freshman moments, but we expect that. And again, just another player that I think is going to get better and better as the year progresses, and she already has. After 11 games, she's gotten better and better. She's gotten stronger in the weight room. I mean, she doesn't look like a freshman. She looks like a grown woman. So, I think she has the ability to win games for us. And that says a lot. She's 14 years old. So, Emery and Samaya and them, they're 18, and here we are, and we have this 14-year-old kid. And, there's a big gap there, but I'm so proud that she was able to come in with this group. We have, 8 seniors, and they're a great group of seniors, great group of leaders, and so she's able to kind of see what it looks like.
Who are some of the other names and faces that have been contributing for you so far?
One big one that's a senior that has really been surprised us all. I mean, we knew that she would be great, but like Dakira Carter, she's a senior. She's a little spark for us off of the bench. Last year, she really struggled to finish around the rim. She is so small. She is so strong, but she's our best rebounder. She is our best rebounder. Like, you cannot out-rebound her. She is going to block you out. She is going to get 2-3 put-back, baskets a game. I think that's been the biggest surprise to all of us. I will tell you, we've had some moments this year where she's pushing that starting position. And I think when you have players like her and Mariah coming off of the bench and pushing our starters, hey, you're either going to be good or you're going to come over here and sit. And when you have those players sitting on the bench and they're able to go in if we have foul trouble or like Liv dealing with an ankle injury, that really helps in the long run.
Coach, you're just about to wrap up your non-conference. You're heading into a tournament to Oklahoma as we're recording this. So what do you think in terms of after the 11 games you played, what's working well? What's really sticking out to you?
We should be 11-0. We got beat by a team that we were much better than. That was frustrating. But I think I think a lot of people with us losing Lex, which is a double-double every night, didn't think we would be in this position that we're in. We've beaten some really good basketball teams. I think what's working well for us is we are really fast. We are hard to guard, and we can score the basketball. We're going to struggle with size, just like last year. We are going to struggle with the size aspect of things, and that's where we hope Libby is able to kind of keep getting better and better. But we're hard to guard. We're hard to keep up with. We wear teams down. I will say one thing that we've always been extremely big in the weight room. I think that's one thing that I've kind of hung our hat on. I think the weight room and our conditioning and what we do in our preseason, I think that's what makes us successful when we do lose the team like we lost with Chloe and Savannah. I think that's when our culture steps in. And I think that's the case this year. That I think is different. We got Coach Jordan, who's our strength and conditioning coach, and I'm telling you, I thought I did a good job with the weights. And when you look at our players, we look different than everybody else. And one thing that I've struggled with in my 15 years here, that I've struggled with weights during the season. And just because it's a lot, it's a lot on me. It's a lot to scout, when you've got 2-3 games in the week, especially in the non-conference play. And with having him, and that's what he does, like we lifted 3 days this week, and we're lifting day before a game, and our kids just look different. We are physically dominant. And I think that's another thing that has changed our programs. If your program's taking advantage of him, and not all of them are, but we are, and we're in there with the football guys, and it's a game changer. So I think that's what you're going to see in our team too.
We'll preview the 6A Central coming up next with Coach Ashley Hutchcraft after this break.
Education is all about vision. It requires commitment, investment. So we pour ourselves into Conway students and teachers, schools, and scholarships. A brighter future? Now that's powerful. Conway Corp. Always on.
Welcome back to the Conway Basketball 2025 Conference Preview. I'm Levi, he's Tim, here with Coach Ashley Hutchcraft. And Coach, let's dive into the 6A Central. I mean, it's, as records seem to indicate, same old suspects as usual. I mean, North Little Rock, Central, Cabot, Bryant, you guys all off to great starts so far.
Yeah, I think, obviously the 6A Central the last 2 seasons have been the teams in the Final Four. I do think, the West is a little bit better this year, which we're excited about. It is so hard when you get to the end of the season and you're in the playoffs and you have to beat someone 3 times to either make it to the state championship or to win the state championship. But that's what makes this league so great. It prepares you for those moments. So, we're excited about it.
All right, so what are your goals as you head into conference play, as we get past this tournament? What are your goals that you've got set for your team?
They're the same goals we always do. We want to win every game.
This is what you're saying.
We want to win every game. I don't know if that's feasible, but there's some places that are really hard to win. But we're definitely going to be going into every game extremely competitive. But again, we're trying to progress to that state championship. I do feel like, a lot of times through the year, it's not so much how good you are, it's how good everyone else is. We've had some years here where we've made it to the state championship and we were just average. Everyone else was kind of average too. And then we've had some years where we had a really good team, but everyone else had a really good team. So, you have to consider that as well. But I do think overall in the state, the 6A in general is a lot deeper this year. Which again, I think everybody in the Central is pretty excited about that.
We talked about this with Coach Lindsey, but love to hear you talk about it too. It's interesting every year because of the 7 teams versus the 8 teams. It throws off your schedule a little bit, but you've been able to schedule around that. You got another great team coming in during your break.
The first year that it was like that, we were able to go to Washington, D.C., so that was amazing. It fit perfect. And then last year, Link Academy came in, and they were a great team for us. And we're going to do the same this year with them. And so, just being able to kind of keep that routine, it's not a bad thing. We're going to get a Friday off, but we're not getting a Friday and a Tuesday off. And so also, as a coach, that time of year, planning practice is miserable. We want to play games. Nobody wants to practice for 7 days. So excited about that. We don't even think about it anymore. So I think there's perks for us. I think there's perks for them, and I think there's a downside both ways. They have to start their conference play pretty soon, in about a week. So, and then we're able to go and travel and, not have to worry about conference till January.
Do you have any questions that you have in your mind of what you think are going to be some challenges or question marks you have?
We're one injury away from not being very good, so that is, as a coach, that's pretty miserable, just that constant worry, but it's out of your control. When you're planning practice or you're in a game, or like right now, we're about to play 7 games in a couple weeks. What's going to happen in those 7 games? And so, just realizing that there are things that are out of your control, but we're going to stay prayed up on that. Size, obviously, just like last year. If we had a little bit of size, we have another ring, but we don't. And we're going to try to keep battling with that. And again, I say we don't have size. Libby has size. It's just, will Libby progress, and will we get Libby there? It's not just on her, it's on us as a coaching staff as well. So that's where we're at.
Shaping up to be another exciting Lady Cat basketball season. Lady Cats will open conference play January 7th here at home, Little Rock Southwest. We'll have that game live for you here on Conway Corp. All the home conference games throughout the year and state tournament as well. Coach, thanks for your time.
Thank you.